Ergonomics and recoil on a gun in Tarkov are easy to understand for some, but for most people that just get into Tarkov, it's a question of what is right and wrong. I'm going to show you the difference between what is good and bad on both ergo and recoil, and also what I would recommend when building a gun. As always, I do stream on Twitch every Monday to Saturday at 10 AM UK time. If you guys want to come hang out, say hi, just have a chat, then the link is in the description below. So, what is ergo? Ergo is how fast you aim down sight, it's the volume of the animation when aiming down sight, and it's also the speed of which your stamina drains in your arms. Obviously, higher ergo means slower stamina drain, means you can hold your gun up for longer, aim down sight for longer, and higher ergo also means that your gun makes less noise when aiming down sight, and also you aim down sight faster. Right, so as you can see here, we have the 0 ergo M4, and we have the 100 ergo M4 here. So with these guns, I'm going to show you how long it takes to aim down sight, and also the differences between the two, the volume that you hear when you ADS, and also the stamina drain. So the full stamina bar, comparing both of those put together. So just to conclude the ergonomic section, we went through volume of ADS sound, the ADS time, the stamina drain, how long it takes to drain stamina from 0 to 100 ergo. Now going on to the volume, if for example someone's running around or sprinting around and coming towards you, and you're kind of like crouched there, sat there waiting for this guy to come through, you ADS, the sound, if you're on like quite low ergo, he's gonna hear that. The sound is just so much more audible at like 0 ergonomics, or not 0, because you wouldn't have a 0 ergonomic gun. In close range, you wouldn't have a 0 ergonomics gun, but if you go for a lower ergonomics gun, you're gonna make a lot more sound. So like that noise is just so audible and so like noticeable. You kind of notice it, like some sort of clicky sound. And then obviously after that, you got the 100 ergo gun that's like you can't even hear it. If someone's sprinting around, imagine you're sprinting around and you try and hear that audio, you won't. Whereas if you hear the 0 ergo, you probably will notice like a little click or something that you heard, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And then you're kind of aware, right? Going on to the ADS, there was a massive difference. I think the ADS time of the 100 ergo was 0.17 seconds. And the 0 ergo was half a second, 0.50 seconds. So that's obviously when the sight picture, so the actual visible sight picture becomes clear, right? Like it stops moving from resting to ADS. That takes 0.70 seconds on 100 ergo, and then half a second on 0. This is just going from one extreme to the other. Later on, I will show you a good mixture to kind of implement into your builds. Now, stamina drain, I noticed that obviously as you get towards the halfway mark of the 100 ergo gun, the 0 ergo gun was already in the red on the arm stamina. So halfway on the 100 ergo was in the red on the 0 ergo already. So that's a massive difference. Obviously, again, not going to be that extreme in terms of 0 and 100, but yeah, there's definitely a massive difference there. When you're going for like a longer range snipe, or you're being more passive, you're waiting for someone to come around a corner, or waiting for someone to peek a window, you might have to have a bit more patience, and the more ergo you have, the easier it is. So what is recoil? Recoil is the value that changes how much your aim or sight moves horizontally or vertically when shooting. So obviously a high recoil number means more movement, and a less recoil number obviously means less movement. Okay, so as you can see here, we have two guns again, with this time with 29 recoil and 119 vertical recoil. So in terms of the horizontal recoil, the stat you see here, we don't really look at that. We don't really look at that stat because it goes hand in hand with the vertical recoil as well. So it acts as different stats, but obviously they go down the same. With this one, we look at the vertical recoil here, which is obviously 119. 328 for the horizontal. Doesn't matter, again, as I said. This gun isn't a gun that I would personally use, really, obviously, but I'm just giving an example of what it would look like. So it's just a representation of how much the recoil affects the performance of the gun. So going back over the recoil, there's not much to talk about really. Honestly, there's just the sort of recoil reduction that your character does. So obviously in the first 5 bullets, it jumps up massively, and your character kicks in with the recoil control and brings it back down to sort of like a normal level above the original point of starting your spray. What I tend to do with that to counteract the first 5 bullets is I pull down on the mouse. I pull down a bit. And then as I feel like it's going to kick in with the recoil control that your character does in the game, I push back up a bit. And then that should sort of balance it out to where it's like kind of in the same spot in a way. Either way, I'll show you a good example of a perfect mixture of low recoil and high ergo at a pretty good cost. So what I'm showing you here is a M4 built to sort of a very high standard. Up top here, you've got the 66 ergo, you have 44 vertical recoil, sorry. You've got a scope on there. You've got a 30-round mag. Now, obviously, some people like to run the 60-round mag. Honestly, it's way too expensive. It's like 90k right now, I think, for a 60-round mag. Doesn't matter which one you choose. Obviously, the better ergo 60-rounder is, it'll drop your ergo down to 52, which I just don't think is worth it, really. It's not worth having that. If you've got enough money to spend on a 60-round mag, then you've got enough money to spend on better attachments on the M4 anyway. So that is out the question. I'm going for straight 30-round mags, which is the standard, which is perfectly fine, really. You just have to hit your shots. That's it. So as you can see, this whole build is worth 292k. That's not including the ammo or the extra mags that you might want. But obviously, depending on what you want, you might want like a 995 or 55A1. 56A1 maybe if you're trying to cheap out on the ammo, but I wouldn't recommend it. But really, I mean, the most expensive parts really is the upper here, the Noveski Gen 3 upper. This one is best in slot for ergonomics, and the Mo 1S upper is best in slot for recoil. So it depends on what you're looking for. I could probably switch it out because I've got quite a bit of ergo already. I could switch it out for a Mer 1S. As you can see here, I've changed the Gen 3 upper for the Mer 1S upper as well. 61 ergo and 41 recoil. That's a super solid stats panel there. That's really good. I would say this is probably the best you're going to get for the price, really. If you don't want a scope, you don't need a scope, you can probably go for like a PKO6. That's a bit expensive. Funnily enough, actually, if you didn't know, the EKP, it's a bit of a weird site. I'm not really a massive fan myself. The EKP gives you -2 ergo, you can see that. But then you put the shade on here, that gives you +3 ergo. So technically, this site overall gives you +1 ergo. That's basically what I would recommend is this sort of build here. So this build really only costs 258k for the whole thing. If you have max traders, that's great. If you don't, it might be a bit more expensive depending on the flea market. So it depends on what you want, really. If you want to spend a bit more, you can do. But this is what I'd recommend here, and I'll show you what this works like in game. So I hope this helps in some way to sort of clear up the sort of misconceptions or the assumptions of ergo and recoil and how they work and what happens there and what the effects are. So to summarize this, 55 to 65 ergo is usually what's best for most full auto guns. If you have more ergo than this, then I would switch some attachments to try and get some more recoil built into the gun. Now for recoil, I'd say about 40 to 50 in terms of the actual recoil stats would be what I'd recommend. This definitely depends on what kind of gun you're using. Remember, the fire rate of the gun has a massive impact on the felt recoil of the gun, and it doesn't compensate for the actual number of the recoil. So the fire rate is a huge impact there. A lower fire rate rate gun around 600 RPM means that a higher recoil number is acceptable. So a higher fire rate gun around 800 RPM. I know the Vector 9mm is 900 RPM and the Vector 45 is 1100 RPM. These will need a lower recoil number. This is due to the short amount of time that it has to reset the recoil back to the center spot where you first originally shot from. But this is something to consider when choosing a gun and the recoil and the stats that you want. Either way, if that helped, let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions or you want to have a chat, come over to my Twitch channel. I'm usually live at about 10 a.m. UK time from Monday to Saturday. Come say hi, give it a follow, and we'll see you there.